All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Never Stop Building podcast. I'm your host, Sam Kaufman. I have with me today Barbara. Barbara, how do I pronounce your last name so I don't mess that up?
Everyone always asks. Schreihans.
Schreihans. Okay, that wasn't too hard. I could have probably nailed that, but I'm glad you said it. So Barbara is the founder of Your Tax Coach, a tax strategy firm that specializes in saving business owners money in taxes. If you're a business owner and you're not interested in that, God help you. So, Barbara, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Thanks. Doing well, in the middle of tax season. So we're surviving over here.
Look, I want to thank you. I actually, right before you hopped on, I went, wow, she made time for this in February, almost March. That's incredible. I appreciate your active service for the podcast. So,
of course, anytime.
Thank you. So look, let's, before we get deep, which is going to happen, you give a little bit of background on you, what you do, where you come from, who you are.
Yeah, totally. So I'm the founder of Your Tax Coach. We're a tax strategy firm. All we do is save business owners money in taxes. And it kind of stemmed from when I graduated with my master's in tax. I started at the largest accounting firm in the world, which was that's what everyone kind of strived for in college. And when I got there, I was like, this is what we worked so hard for. And I was so disappointed and ended up working at 5 other accounting firms and realized they were all kind of the same. They all sucked. And none of them were actually saving people money in taxes. None of them could speak to their clients in a way that they actually understood. It was like Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah,
I do know.
And just very stuffy and boring. And I was like, there has to be a better way. And so eventually I got the balls to start my own firm, and that's where we are today.
Nice. Just out of curiosity, what, and I'm not asking for confidential information, but what were the other firms doing? Or I guess why weren't they saving their clients money? What is the difference between a tax strategist who actually saves their clients money and one who doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, it's more of what were they doing? Nothing. They were doing nothing. I feel like the typical accounting firms kind of built backwards. It's this, how many clients can we get? It's quantity of clients and charge the least amount of money for. But then in tax season, they're doing thousands of tax returns. They're not doing them well because there's no way you can do thousands of returns without making mistakes. Definitely no time to actually dig in and find ways for you to save. They're just putting numbers from what you give them on a form, filing it, and see you next year, right? Tax strategy is we have to work with our clients all year round, meet with them all year round. It's very proactive instead of reactive. So we take on very few clients, but just serve them in a much bigger manner.
I love that. So proactive with your taxes instead of reactive.
Mm-hmm. That's
really, really cool. Actually, I heard you said some things, I think at the January Flying Friday for executives that I won't disclose them necessarily here, but I came home and started getting the ball rolling on some proactive strategy stuff. Yeah. So thank you. Our first CPA or our tax preparer, we were really small and I didn't know anything about tax preparation or outside of filing on TurboTax as a W-2 employee. And so I found this mom and pop place, and they were really kind and really nice. And they were super helpful in the beginning, informing me. When we grew though, I guess we honestly our business structure outgrew them. And when I had my stuff looked at by somebody higher level, they were like, oh my God, the amount of money that you've, I guess, lost by not saving is, and he showed me, do you see that a lot where these firms kind of these businesses grow within the firm and then, but it's really an outgrowth point that business owners miss?
100%. And we see it all day, every day, because we're getting new clients. Usually their pain point is taxes. Hey, I think I'm paying too much, right? So we're okay, let's look at the last few years. We literally all the time we'll amend people's 18, 19, 20 returns and they'll get back over $100,000. And it's like, it's not your fault as the business owner. You don't know, like you're trusting this person with your like livelihood, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just expect it to be right. And then it's almost like a kick in the stomach when you realize like they didn't actually have my best interest. But honestly, like I don't think it's malicious on their part. It's just a lack of knowledge. So
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt with you, but I feel like lacking knowledge is maybe not malicious, but like if you're taking,
totally.
I applaud you for the extra mile that you're going, and I applaud you that you don't consider education in your industry an extra mile. You consider it a standard, right? Yeah, that's really interesting. So let me, I didn't actually intend to talk a whole lot about taxes, but I'm kind of a nerd for all this like administrative business stuff for some reason, but I'm curious, like, would you think, is there like a point or like a thought or like a moment or a year that you think a business owner, entrepreneur should start to consider tax strategy as opposed to tax preparation?
Man, I want to answer it as like from the very beginning because it is so important, but I don't want to sound like, oh, you have to like use our firm from the beginning. That's not how I mean it. It's literally like, and I took a picture. Our neighbors are building a house in the plot next to us, which is kind of annoying because it's also just construction all the time. But I took a picture of them like building the foundation today, and it was kind of like I was gonna write a post about how it's just like with tax planning, like you need to have the right foundation from the beginning, or you can get screwed, kind of like what you were saying, like your entity structure probably wasn't set up correctly from the very beginning, which caused you year after year to pay too much in taxes. And so honestly, from the very beginning, you got to have like the right entity structure. And then, you know, as you grow and you have more profit, you can start adding in more and more strategies. Really, like we won't take anyone unless they're profiting like 40,000 a year, which might not sound like much, but honestly, a lot of businesses can get their deductions like so that their profit's pretty low. But I would say as soon as you can work with a tax strategist, or at least have us look it over, because we can be like, dude, we can save you 30 grand a year, 50 grand a year, 10, even 10 grand, like $10,000 is like taking your family to Disney World, right?
Yeah, I was actually, to that point, like there have been a lot of times in my, I guess, career where I paid for a consultation just to have things reviewed, be it taxes or dashboards or KPIs or fine, or, you know, just general accounting. And every time I've paid for a consultation of that, it has paid the ROI on that consultation was 100x the actual consultation. Cause I don't know, we like start businesses and usually we start businesses because we're good at something specific, be it like a technical thing or sales or we're good at one thing that we are like, all right, cool. We know we can scale this, but none of us start businesses because we're good at taxes, except for you. But like, none of us start businesses because we understand tax law.
Exactly.
I find that interesting. So all of that being said, do you find, let's move into like money mindset a little bit, because you and I, we operate in some of the same, there's some big money mindset people in your life. I'm assuming a lot of them are clients. I'm assuming you're surrounded by some high performing money thinkers.
Yeah.
So talk to me about money mindset a little bit.
Oh gosh. I feel like my money mindset journey has like it will never end, right? First of all, because it's like new levels, new devils, like you always have to keep working through them. But when I first started my business, the very first thing I had to work on was money mindset. Like, and I came from, both my parents are addicts. We had nothing growing up, right? Any money that they did make in their like minimum wage jobs, they put either up their nose or smoked it or whatever, right? And so we never had money, we never saw it. We were always on all these government programs, blah blah blah. And then even through school and starting my own business, then I had to really work through like, am I worth like charging this? Am I worth keeping this? And I see it all the time with our clients too. It's like, sure, we can save them a lot of money and they're going to get these huge checks in the mail back from the treasury. But then they're like, what do I do with it? Right.
Mm.
They don't know how to keep it, or they don't know how to invest it. And if you're not in the right mindset, it can just go away. Right. So I would say first, like, you have to work on your abundance mindset, realizing that you will always keep growing your money. You have to believe that every investment that I mean, obviously be smart about it, do your due diligence, but like, you have to be worthy of it growing. You have to be willing to keep it. You have to, like, so many things, like, and each person is different. So I feel like throw some examples at me and I can give you some ways to work through it. But
well, I have questions then. So
yeah.
you said worthy to like charge for it or earn it. I hear that one a lot. Like that's discussed frequently. Like you have to understand that like you're worthy of charging more. But you said worthy of keeping it though. I do not hear that discussed ever. What does that mean? I mean, I know what it means, black and white, but like, what does that actually mean?
Yeah. So, and I kind of realized this looking back on my childhood. So growing up, my parents would somehow come into these like large sums of money, and then it would be gone like a week later. Right. So, and I honestly think it's because of their financial, I call them financial minimums and financial maximums. Like, it was above their financial maximums. So they just like got rid of it. They didn't know what to do with it. And we see it too with like lottery winners, right? They get all this money and then a year later they file for bankruptcy. And that's because they never worked on their financial maximums. They didn't know how to keep 10,000. So why would they know how to keep 1,000,000? And so, yeah, really working on what can you keep and what do you deserve?
Why do you think people, what is it that you think creates that block in somebody's mind that if they see a 10,000 or 5,000 or 50,000, they have to get rid of it? Is it a fear of making bad decisions? Is it a fear? Is it a worthiness issue? Is it a fear of, and look, I got to tell you, your parents too. So like, I've got almost 9 years in recovery. And it was funny when you said like they'll come into these random, addicts are really, really good at coming into random large sums of money. Like you, no explainable reason.
Yeah.
No idea. Like, where'd you get that? Nah, you know, whatever. Like, so I interesting though, because I can relate to the almost like years ago, as the years have gone on, this is obviously I've you know, leaps and bounds with the mindset part of it, but like in the beginning and like running the business and when it starts to grow, there's these checks get bigger and bigger and the bank account gets bigger and bigger. And then like the fear sets in. And that, you know, like, where does that come from? And that's like kind of what I like. Is it a fear of losing the money? Is it a fear of worthiness? Is it a fear of failure? And I think sometimes I think people overspend. Like they don't even want the money. They thought they did. Like they don't want the responsibility that comes with 20,000 in the checking account for the first time or 30. Like, what the hell do I do now? Like,
yeah,
you
I
know what I
think
mean?
it comes down to whatever the lies that they saw growing up, right? Just like with most things, it's all about our childhood and what we saw. And what I saw could be different than what you saw or than our friends saw growing up. So it could be a worthiness issue if you have issues with how you feel. It could be fear if your parents, if you grew up hearing like money is bad, money is evil, rich people are greedy, you know, all these negative things around money. So it all really just depends on what you heard and the lies. And it's really like, and I tell my clients this all the time, write like the 10 things you remember hearing growing up, and then write if that is actually true. Like, are rich people greedy? You know what? The richest people I know donate more money than we could ever fathom, right?
Yeah.
So are rich people actually greedy? No. Will there be some bad apples? Sure, but there's like bad apple poor people too, right? And like, is money actually evil? Well, again, if you're using it for good, like if you have more money, you can tip people better. You can give to the charities that you want. You can tithe at church. Like, so many things. And so it's really like writing down all those lies that we tell ourselves and working through it.
Have you noticed a correlation between the amount of money that people can keep and the amount of money they're willing to give? Not spend, not buy stuff, but give with no expectation of return, donate, tithe. Do you see a correlation in people's giving and their level?
Honestly, I don't think so. Because I have clients that make 100,000 a year as a family unit and they tithe 10%. I have clients that make 1 million and I don't see them tithing on their tax returns, right? So it could go either way for sure, but I think it's still a money mindset thing. Um, One of my favorite money mindset books is called Happy Money, and it's about Asian cultures. And in Asian cultures, when you meet each other, you hand them your wallet, and it's not because they want to see your money or like what you have. They're feeling it to see if does this feel like yucky, or is your like wallet in abundance. And then it goes into like every time they swipe their card or every time they give money, it's in this like gracious way, like if they're paying for their taxes, wow, I feel really privileged to like pay these taxes, right? Because that means I made a lot of money. Or I feel grateful to pay this bill because I have the means to do so. And so again, it just comes down to like that mindset.
So it's like the I get to as opposed to I have to.
Yeah.
So like they're like touching wallets to like sense financial energy.
Yeah. Right. Well, it's called currency for a reason, and energy is currency.
Wow.
It's a cool connection.
Wow. I guess too, if we viewed it as energy, it would be a lot easier to view it in abundance.
Mm-hmm.
People don't seem to be as scarce minded when it comes to energy or time, which is interesting because time is like literally the only finite thing. People give that away all day though. I watch people give their time away constantly.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like that you said you'd have people write down the 10 things they heard growing up.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. So do you think it's more what we heard as opposed to like, if you grew up in a household where the combined income was 50,000 and it was a okay but rough, or you didn't have what your friends had, versus 150,000, do you think it's more what we heard versus how much our parents had?
100%. Yeah. Honestly, the people that have the hardest time working through their like limiting beliefs are the families that had a lot of money growing up, but their parents were so frugal because they were afraid of spending their money and they were afraid of investing, that it then like comes down to you, right? Um, Whereas I think it's a little bit easier to get through like the limiting beliefs of just being poor. Um, it's the people that are just like so frugal and won't spend anything.
Wow, I can relate and understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of grew up. I didn't really have a lot, or it went in between. My dad was in and out of work. Sometimes he had really great jobs, and he was a printer by trade. So at some point, that was no longer a trade. Printing
Yeah.
wasn't people printing. But I remember I remember I have like vivid memories of moments of stress, and I mean debilitating stress because of some financial decision or situation. I look back on it now understanding like it wasn't even that big of a deal. It was to him.
Yeah.
At that moment, the thought of like spending what he had, or the thought of the savings account, was the only investment account. There was no money working for him. It was him working for money only his whole life.
Yeah.
And I just remember like I had to really, like, starting my business and having to, to grow a business, you can't have that. I mean, you cannot have that fear. But I remember it was like I had to really like work through some stuff. I had to like journal. I had to pray. I had to write. I talked to my wife. I had to get some help. I had to really break through some barriers. And I love that you said that because I didn't really hurt for anything growing up, but a very good childhood. But I still ended up a young adult afraid of money, losing it, earning it, spending. I don't know. It was like an obsession.
Yeah. And that's why we all have our own limiting beliefs. And so that's why it's important to like write down your own, like 10 things you heard growing up, and then things that you're trying to work through. Like I remember when I started my business, right? The first goal is like the first $10,000 month. And then it's like, oh, okay, I have to like be worthy of that 10,000. I need to write it down every day so that it comes to me. And then I have to work on keeping it. And then it was like the first $100,000 month. Whoa, like you got to work through some stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're like working through those $500,000 months. It's like, it doesn't matter what level you're at. You like, yeah, you have to journal it out.
Yeah, I love that. I love like I know personally for me, what I had to get to a point where no number caused an emotional chain reaction. Be it big or small, the reaction was a response. It went from reacting into response mode. So if as it got bigger, like, cool, that means we're growing. There's things that need to be, people that need to be hired. There's decisions that need to be made. And if it's shrinking, okay, there's different decisions, but it was never a stop labeling one good, one bad, one scary, one okay, one comfortable. Like when money becomes, I don't want to say emotionless, because I don't think any, like, especially if it's energy, no resource has no emotional tie, but I had to get out of having emotional reactions to numbers, to the KPI, to dashboard, to the tax number. Look, if I have 40 grand and if the best my tax preparer can do is a $40,000 profit, we probably made a lot of money. Like, yeah. If that's the best you can do, then we did okay. You know what I mean, though, about do you agree or disagree, like on the emotional tie to the whole thing? What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I mean, you do, right? You kind of have to disassociate yourself with the number. And for me, like how I kind of work through that is I already write down as if I made that 500,000 a month. Like, what will that money go to, right? What charities do I want to donate to? What hires do I want to make so that I'm supporting more families? What investments do I want to make so that my family is taken care of for generations? And when you like kind of allocate it to certain things, you're like, oh, okay, all of this money is going to go to good, like meaningful things. And so why wouldn't I make that?
I love that. So you assign a purpose to the huge amount of money, or huge to us at the time. So even $500,000 a month might, but at some point it could be a $5 million a month and you'd be like nothing. Like, but I love that assigning a purpose. I had a conversation with my team recently where I equated their salaries to how many lives they can impact. I said, so you want to make X amount of money? That means that this company has to impact X amount of more families in our industry. We have to impact X amount of more couples and their kitchen and bath, because our main business is kitchen and bath remodel and flooring, but you can equate anything to impacted lives. But you should have seen like the understanding of that when you like relay it that way. Like, look, you want to double your salary? I want to double your salary too, but you're currently at 50 lives impacted a year. It has to be 150. You have to positively impact 150 people, is 100 more. And they're like, fuck, okay, I can do that. So no, it's no longer I'll pay you more when you perform better. It's that'll come to you. There's a purpose now. I loved you assigning a purpose to money. That's huge.
Yeah, we do that with our team members too. Like, it's not transactional, right? It's how many relationships you have. So like how you said you need 150 families, like their pay as well is that just means X amount of millions of dollars we're saving people in taxes, right? Like, do you want this person to be overpaying $50,000? No way, right? So of course they're going to be on board to like, oh yeah, we got to hit this number in savings. And another thing I love doing as well, so like assigning a purpose, but then also when I'm spending something, whether it be like charity or even like, I don't know, I really wanted this Rolex watch. And again, I went through that like mindset of, am I worthy of having a Rolex, right? I grew up, my parents didn't even wear a watch, right? Because if they had a watch, they would have sold it for dark money. Like,
gone.
Yeah. And so when I did finally buy the Rolex, I was like, it's fine. This money will come back to me 10x. I say it every time I swipe a card, I buy anything I give to charity, this money is coming back to me 10x. And I shit you not, that same week, almost to the dollar, 10x of what I spent that watch on. That money wasn't coming in like at all prior to buying it. It's crazy. It's crazy.
That is wild. So, all right. So let's take it down a few notches from $500,000 months in Rolexes. Would you, though that's where I like to live too. So, but I mean, and talking to people who might be listening who make 30 grand a year or 40 grand a year or 60 grand a year, how important do you think it is to start applying, this will come back to me, 10x now, when there's no evidence, there's no real evidence to believe that? Why should people start believing that now?
And I apologize, I didn't mean for that to sound like, I literally 2 years ago was making $60,000 a year. So I know that this works, right? Like,
don't apologize. You are worthy. That's important to acknowledge as well. You are worthy. So no apologies.
I just don't want it to come off as like, snotty or something. No. But it's just a testament to like, I was there. Like I was in $100,000 of debt between my student loans and credit cards and all of that. And literally like, this is what I had to work on to get to where we are now in just 2 years. Like it's mind blowing. And so I would say like, yeah, that's exactly where I started. Like in the beginning, my sole goal was to pay off my student loans. So it was like, what do I have to do now to just pay that off? So you start small, right? It's like, how can I make an extra $1,000? At the time, my student loan payments were $1,400 a month. They were more than my mortgage. It was like, it was debilitating. Like, so it was like, how do I make that? Okay, I can get a roommate. I can drive for Uber. I can drive for Lyft. I can sell stuff on Facebook Marketplace, like all these things, right? To make it happen. But I still had to believe that I could make that $1,000. So it was literally journaling, like I will make $1,000 a month. And when I do, it's going to be allocated to my student loans. Like I had that purpose to it. I had the, how am I going to do it? And then you just slowly like increase those financial minimums, right? Then it was like, okay, I'm going to make $2,000 a month. How is it going to happen? What am I going to use it for? And then, that like coveted $10,000 months that I feel like everyone's always striving for that. And I love when my clients get there. And so it's the same process. It doesn't matter how many zeros there are, like it's the same thing.
It's the same process. It doesn't matter how many zeros there are.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. I do. And again, you did not come off snotty, but I think it is so important for people to hear that mindset. I think sometimes, and I know I used to, like 5 years ago, probably not even necessarily that long, but I used to, well, yeah, I will think that way when I get there too. I will think in abundance about money when I have an abundance of money. I will think that money will come back to me when I see it coming back to me. And none of it happened until my mindset switched long before my bank account improved.
Yeah.
And then my bank account improved. I think that's incredible though. You got yourself out of all that debt and are doing what you're doing now in 2 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's why you're the tax coach. Yeah. That makes sense. So what were you doing at the time? Were you working a full-time job and side hustling just to get, so this whole journey for you started as I'm just going to get my student loans out of my way?
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly. So when I graduated, 8 years ago from my master's program, I was 6 figures in debt and I kind of just let it ride for like 5 years. I was like, I'll just make interest only payments. And then I was like, oh, fuck. When I finally looked at the balance, like, this is not good. And so, yeah, I was working in a regular accounting firm, making like $60,000 a year and a single mom at the time. And it was just like, you got to do what you got to do. So like, I did all the things I could think of, right? Get a roommate, which sucked. Roommates are weird when you're like already when you're like already an adult.
Right. If you have a kid, roommates. It's like,
yeah. Driving for Uber, driving for Lyft, selling stuff on Facebook or Poshmark or like any of those kind of places. And then I would like do friends' tax returns for like $50, $100, here and there. And then yeah, started my started my business eventually.
How much does it cost now to have an hour consultation with you?
Man, I really don't even try to take like hour consultations.
That's awesome. That's even
Yeah.
cooler. Yeah. Good for you.
But yeah, if I do, it's like $1,000.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that sounds that's cool. So $50 returns and Uber it's $1,000 to talk to me.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I'll tell you just real quick that 1,000. So when I joined Apex, somebody told me, hey, you need to hit up this guy. And I just because I don't know if he does this, I don't know. So I don't know if I could disclose who it is, but it's like, you gotta talk to this guy. So I sent that guy a DM and I said, hey man, so-and-so told me I need to reach out to you. And I got all these questions and I'm gonna do all these million things and blah. And he goes, cool, man. It's $1,000 an hour to talk to me on the phone. And my response to him was, that was literally all I needed to hear to know I'm in the right place. Thanks, brother. Talk to you soon. And I'm not paying you $1,000 to talk to you, but the fact that I'm around a group of people that value their time that much, I'm where I'm supposed to be. So,
yeah,
but I find that so cool because so many of us come from, I'll do it for $50.
Like your friends just want to pick your brain. I love that term. Like, can I just pick your brain? And I'm like, here's my link to pick my brain, right?
Yeah. Can I pick your brain, especially for you and your profession? I imagine is more, hey, can I get a bunch of free strategy to go implement with my current CPA because I'm too afraid to spend the money on a good one or hire you? Or is that about right?
Yeah, that's why we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, no, we don't do. No, good for you. This is, I got to tell you, like when we were coming on the call, like I was prepared to talk about money and taxes and stuff, but your story is probably even more interesting than you've really dived into here. So, like, that's really cool. Well, look, before we wrap it up, do you have anything else you want to touch on? Money mindset or the journaling or abundance or even just yourself?
How about favorite money books?
Yeah, let's do that. Can you include author with your book title?
Oh, I probably not.
Okay, sick. That's fine. Just do. All right. Forget I asked that. I never asked her that. We're just doing book titles.
I'm like the worst at remembering names or like movie lines. Forget it.
Look, I'll see if I can find the authors and put the authors in the show notes.
I'll send it to you after.
There, yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. All right. So favorite money books.
Rich as Fuck. It's written by a female and it's very girly, but if you can get past like the girliness of it, that's literally what changed my entire money mindset. Happy Money, fantastic. That's one I mentioned earlier about the Asian culture. Think and Grow Rich is a huge one. And Millionaire Mindset is also amazing. What about you? Do you have any others that I didn't mention?
Well, the book that changed my entire outlook on money was Rich Dad Poor Dad. I know that's a typical like, but it did. I read it at a time where my view on money was so fucked, and when the pay yourself first mentality, it just changed. It really changed my financial future. And I do want to. I think people will hear that and they're like, pay yourself first. So put money in your check. No, it's putting your money to work for you first. That's paying yourself pay your investments, get your assets in check, start. Yeah. So that was my big one. Think and Grow Rich has been huge.
My husband would probably also say Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's how he kind of started his money mindset. He's still active military. And man, if I could just teach military men about their money mindset, I think the world would be a better place. But because they're just so like scarcity mindset, but he would say the same thing, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think it's very relatable and easy to understand. And to your point about paying yourself first, like that is probably the number one thing I have to work on with all of these business owners is like, probably 99% of them, when they come to us as prospects, I'm like, hey, are you contributing to your retirement? No. And it's like, we think of all these expenses first, all the people we need to hire, all the bills we have to pay out, but like your retirement and your investments should also be one of those bills and should be one of the first ones before you think of other expenses too. So that's super important.
Agreed. Any others?
Oh gosh, I'll send them to you after.
Okay, send them to me. I'll put them in the show notes. Well, look, Barbara, thank you. This was awesome. Thank you so much for getting on.
Yeah.
I have where you can find Barbara. I have Instagram at your tax coach, TikTok at your tax coach, and your website is yourtaxcoach.biz. Did I get all that correct?
Perfecto.
Awesome. That's really cool. So yeah, so you have where to find Barbara. If you have tax issues, I highly suggest that you find Barbara. So,
at least follow us. At least follow us on Instagram, because every day we drop tax tips and tricks for business owners. So you'll at least get a lot of valuable content there.
That is awesome. That is awesome. All right, yo. Look, thank you for listening. If you didn't get a lot out of this podcast, you were not paying attention, and I hope that you do on the next one. And yeah, please remember to rate, review, subscribe. It's tremendously helpful to get people like Barbara's value out to more people. And that's the whole goal of Never Stop Building. So Barbara, thanks again for coming on, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks.